Hi, so I'm back for part 2 of the compelling cliffhanger of the history of foot care nursing in the US for all one of you who might be interested. Actually, this is probably more just therapeutic for me, but I do want my memories to go down somewhere and then I can refer to them later when the mood hits me, and it has now. So I left off, and sorry, I tried to go outside to a more scenic place. This really should just be a video audio cast or something because you don't need to see me. But right at the moment, we're in a room that's in transition, so it looks like a complete chaos. But I couldn't get it working outside. So back to where we were. So Teresa Kelachai, my mentor and savior, really supported me through my first couple years. I went back and trained with her. She was the only person really doing trainings back in South Carolina for a few home health agencies, but at that time there was nobody in private practice. There was other than Jane Kelly, who did her little, not little, it was really significant. Sorry, Jane, if you're watching this, I just want you to know how much I honor you for the work you did, and you're probably very under recognized, so maybe you will be now. Anyway, so Jane was doing her thing, so I didn't really realize that I was in such a minority. As I started my foot care practice with a little office and doing mobile and office visits back in 1994, 95, something like that. And at that time, I found out there was another nurse who I have not got to meet in person, but I'm hoping to because she is friends of friends, and her name is, they call her Nurse Noonan. She's got two names, but she is European trained. She was in Florida doing foot care in a little office in a hospital in Florida. And as far as I know, we were the first two around the same time to start independent practices with having an office and calling ourselves foot nurses at that time. So I was just busy building my practice, and I moved from office to office. One thing, I'll do another video maybe someday on the business end of things again, but the office thing, I have had so many offices, it's ridiculous. So anyway, I was kind of sidetracked with building my own business and not really worrying about anything else. And then Teresa recommended me to the WOCNCB, the Wound Ostomy Continence Certification Board, who at that time were working on developing the certification for foot care nurses. So they did a questionnaire, and it was Pat McDonald, wonderful woman, not to be confused with another wonderful Pat McDonald up in Canada, but this Pat McDonald was a wound nurse in the United States and sadly has passed many years ago from cancer, I believe. But anyway, so she started the process, and I got to meet her and know her a little bit, and she was wonderful. And so the wound nurses really saw that there was a need to have foot care, a specialty, and so they developed, it was like 5 years and lots of money involved in developing a proper certification process. So they went through all that, but from what I hear, there was supposed to also be somebody else developing the actual curriculum, so that the exam would be for people who went through a curriculum, but that part never happened. So what they did is they developed a certification exam with different subjects, and you could find out what was going to be tested on, but you really had to go and do the didactic and figure it out on your own to meet the requirements for that. So it was kind of like the cart before the horse or whatever, but that's the story I heard, was that the curriculum just never got developed, and then they had this certification. So Teresa recommended me to that board to be on the certification exam question development committee, something like that. So I was just so honored and excited, and I was so naive, I can't believe it. But anyway, I was on this committee, and I went back there and got to meet some interesting people and be involved in this process of developing questions and all that for this exam. And I was later actually kicked off the committee because I started teaching, and it was conflict of interest, which makes total sense. But I wanted to mention that this experience and dealing with the bureaucratic end of this, which I guess is necessary, was a real eye-opener for me. because I think I was the only one with just an AA degree. Sorry, I'm going to turn that off. And I didn't have, a bachelor's or a master's or doctorate like many of the people who were on the committee did. So I was really kind of undereducated compared to them. However, I was the one that was doing it. I had more skills and more energy around that, and I was actually doing it. So I may not have a PhD, but I have the practical experience that nobody else has, because I was just busy doing that. So I got involved in this committee, and then I got uninvolved in the committee. But one of the things that happened is my interest, and you probably figured it out by now, is the international aspects of foot care nursing and foot care in general, because we all need to be doing it all over the world, and the international thing has always been one of my big interests. So at that time, there was another committee member, and I shared that with her, and my mother happened to be terminally ill at that time, and I didn't have the time or the energy to work on that. And this person asked me permission if she could take my idea and run with it as far as starting a little organization for international foot care. And so I said, yeah, as long as, I'm involved. This is my idea, and keep me posted, and anything I can do that I can do, and, with my circumstances. So that was it, and that was the agreement. She said she had the time, she had the money, she was going to start maybe a nonprofit or something, and so I was all in support of that. So 6 months go by, and I got an email from her saying, well, we have our first newsletter coming out, and what topic do you want? So basically, I was not kept up to date on anything that was happening. And then, so I go, I'll do like a calendar of different conferences that are happening around the world or whatever. So she sent me some more information, and come to find out that she had started an organization, and all the other members that were on this committee with me were board members of a newly formed organization based on my idea without me being told. So, I don't know if I was being oversensitive, but I was kind of offended and a little upset. And I wrote back and I said, what's going on here? And they were, this was the kicker too, is they already planned a conference in the Caribbean on international foot care. And so they had formed an organization, had board members, had a conference planned all around my ideas, and I was never informed, and I questioned them on that, and nothing ever happened. They disbanded it. I don't know, I haven't been in touch with these people, but it was that sort of thing that should have been an eye-opener for many more years of very strange happenings as far as that goes. So anyway, that's just kind of a little side story as to back to the history of foot care in the United States. So then the certification was made, and I did get to help make some of the questions, and that was fun. And then I got off the committee, and I started doing my own courses for many years. And then what happened is I had been taught the Dremel, and I used that, and then I went to a beauty trade show in 2004, I think, up in Sacramento, and it was a podiatrist was teaching Dr. Oscar Mix, who writes this book that's on a lot of the references. It's called the Salon Professional's Guide to Foot Care. Well, I was the one who told everybody in the foot care field about this book, and it became one of the resources for the test questions. So that was huge. Anyway, so I went to his course, and it was mostly nail technicians there. I had brought a couple other nurses with me, and this is where I learned to use and see that first real nice, foot file that was high-speed drill that went up to 30,000 RPMs. Actually, back then it may have only been 20. Anyway, I realized that nail technicians were using better equipment than nurses, and I let my Dremel go. I got this, and then I got on the bandwagon to really try to promote the use of proper equipment. So equipment, infection control, all that stuff became my forte. And it was around that time I would get on the internet and I'd do searches on foot care equipment and found that there was so much going on in Europe. They had incredible equipment because they had podologists, chiropodists, foot care health professionals. Every country has a different name for their foot professionals. But I came across this company named Hadway, and they had a drill called the Helios, and I got in touch with the owner of the company, and we're still friends to this day. I just love him dearly. Chris Menzel and his brother own Hadway, and I got in touch with him and I say, oh my God, I need this. I'm in California. It was a vac drill, much more expensive, really high end, and I said, we have to have these. How do I get one? And he replied that they weren't legal to export because they had to go through FDA or whatever, and they were working on that. And he was not aware of foot care nurses. He wasn't aware of foot care nurses in Canada. And that's where I told him, I said, this would be a huge market for foot care nurses. And there's only 2 in the US now, but there's thousands or hundreds or whatever in Canada. So he got in touch with a company in Canada that now imports that equipment. And I have from very good insider knowledge that company really just catered to the beauty industry. They were not aware of foot care nurses until I got in touch with Hadway, who then got in touch with them. And over the next 2 years, they got it legal, and the Helios was then exported to Canada. So I came up there and actually worked a little bit and tried to, get those out, and worked with the company. And it was really fun until it became unfun. And what is unfun for me is my lack of business knowledge and getting anything in writing or having any agreements, or I just went up there in good faith that that everybody, I would be treated fairly, etc. And there wasn't anything specific that went wrong, except there was just no clarity of really what my role was. So pretty soon I just kind of got a little discouraged, especially when I would get really big connections for them that would go to companies that would then, be selling these online, and I got nothing for it. So I decided the world of business and promoting and selling things was not for me at all. And I was involved in one big sale years and years and years ago, and that was it. I just got out of there because it was just way too stressful, and I was out of my depth. So, but now, what's the big drill in Canada? Helios, and I think now the Aurora, and it's only sold through that company, and they never would have had it. Well, I can't say never. I was the one who started it. So, and then also what happened is I would go to a lot of conferences up there and share my enthusiasm for this new little electric file that I had, because everybody was using the Dremel. And it was just amazing, the resistance to anything new that I got up there, except for a few nurses that were really, I don't know, they embraced it. But the majority, including one of the top leader educators in Canadian foot care, actually said to me, I can do anything that you can do with my Dremel, that you can do with yours. And I just said, no, you can't. This thing goes 30,000 RPMs. By then I had the bigger one. I had different burrs and bits, and I was doing much better work. In fact, there was a book written with a whole chapter on the Dremel, and I said, hey, let me rewrite that. I know all about this stuff, and no. So I was actually sort of trying to be the ambassador nurse from uniting my technology experience with all the incredible educators and the programs that were going on in Canada. And again, it just was too difficult for me. I just couldn't, it was just too political. There was personalities and politics and bureaucracy and professional jealousy. I don't know. Whatever it was, after a couple years of really trying, I just backed out of that. And I just found that it was better to just stick with what I knew would make me happy, and that was doing the foot care. And I did some foot care courses on my own, but I really got out of the idea of trying to be the ambassador to Canada. So that's just a little bit of political stuff there, because here we are, the North America, and we have these incredible teaching institutes and all sorts of stuff going on in Canada that could be shared with the United States, and that's all I wanted, was to be one big happy family sharing stuff. But when it comes to money and business and greed and politics, and I just had to get out. I lost friends. I didn't know how to handle it. I'd unfriend people I knew on Facebook who I considered to be, unethical. It was just a mess. Okay. So I got out of it and I went, okay, well, I'm in this for the long run. I just have to find what I can do on my own. And that's what I've done. So I started, doing international things and starting my little organization. So back to the main topic of foot care nursing. So here we are now, all these years later. We have hundreds of foot care nurses in the United States now. There's websites, you do searches, there's all these companies and independent practices starting. And I did see this when I had started my own business. I had a vision that in 20 years, this is how foot care would be in the United States. So in a sense, I was ahead of my time. And the thing about being ahead of your time is you really are ahead of your time. I'm kind of on the cusp. I'm seeing what I can do in the time left for me to be in this career. But all the ideas that I had then would be much more appropriate for now. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to stop here